Good morning and good afternoon, folks. We're just about a minute after the hour, after 8 here in California, where I'm located at. And it looks like we've got a decent number of folks joining us. So I wanted to go ahead and kick it off today and be cognizant of everyone's time. Wanted to start off by thanking you all for joining us. Today, we're going to be looking at a webinar around transforming how you create and deliver personalized content. FusionPro, whether you're familiar with it or if this is a solution that you're taking a look at for the first time, is an extremely powerful tool. And we have our presenter today is going to be Doug Kogan. Doug is actually, I kind of like to call him the godfather of Fusion Pro, if you will. Doug is actually responsible for developing the platform and writing actually the first line of code for it. So if there's anything to do with Fusion Pro, Doug is heavily involved with it and continues to lead our development team as well. Today is going to be a look at version 14.2 of Fusion Pro and some of the new capabilities that we're making to allow for greater personalization, automation, and workflow management. I don't want to steal too much of Doug's thunder. I gave him a brief introduction here. Doug, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. I will make one comment as I do that we do have everyone's mics muted today and cameras off. Please feel free to enter any comments or questions into the chat. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, and we also will be sending out a recording as well. So you'll have that for reference. You can also share it with any of your team members if they'd be interested in taking a look at it. So without further ado, Doug, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Robert. And thank you for all the people who are attending. I see some people here have been customers for many, many years, and some folks are newer. I'm grateful to all of you. And as Robert said, I've been in charge of the Fusion Pro project since its inception many decades ago, and have the team mostly located in Chicago, where we've been developing the software over the years, and have quite a loyal customer base. So I'm very grateful to all of you. A lot of you I've talked to over the years, and nice to see some familiar names, and nice to see some new folks too in the fold. As Robert mentioned, I'm going to talk about version 14.2. That's been out for a few months, and it's available on the website right now, available for Windows or Mac. If you have a current active subscription or you're on maintenance, you can get that for no additional cost. Or if you have a version 14 serial number, then you can download version 14.2 and install it. So I'm going to show some of the key new components, and I think most of you have received an email from our team that talked about some changes that are going on in Acrobat. And I'm going to be talking about that too at the end and how we are going to be addressing that. So the new features I'm going to talk about for version 14.2 are some changes to imposition. So you can impose pre-composed files easier than it used to be. The improvements to the web services API, that's mostly for server customers, but if you've got producer, it would make your life easier in producer as well. Some improvements to the table GUI system that we made in 14.0. And if you haven't used that table GUI at all, it'll be a little quick reintroduction to that. But some changes we made to that to make it even easier to use. A simple thing that it's kind of one of those tiny edits that makes your life a lot better, where if you've got an Excel file or a data file and the headers aren't the first row, that is a real pain to deal with. And we've all experienced that. So now we can just say, tell me what row the header is in. It's not a big change, but it's one of those things where a little thing makes your life a lot easier. And a new file read-write API, and talk about the security that we put around that too. So if you've got like a server installation, then it doesn't just open up the whole world for your Fusion Pro app to go and access files that otherwise it wouldn't have permission to. And like I said, how we're going to address the issue that I sent an email about regarding Acrobat and some changes that are happening there. I'll do that after I give my demo of 14.2. I'm going to go through each of those changes, and then I'll give a demo of them. But basically, that inside of the Imposer tool, I can take a pre-composed set of files, run them through FP Imposer, and generate imposed output. A lot of people have needed this. They've asked for ways we can do it. There is a way you can do it inside of the Acrobat plugin. It's a little tricky. You have to set up a template of the right size. You have to turn on a rule that will read in the PDF file. It can do it, but this way would be a little easier. Now, I am showing postcards being imposed. If the postcards are in postal sort order and you want to do tray breaks and put the things that by zip code into different trays, you probably at the moment need to still use the Acrobat plugin for that as opposed to the Imposer tool. So it will
Yep.
impose postcards, but if you're trying to do the postal sort and put things in trays in the right order, and keep the postal sort order and break them, especially break them at tray boundaries, then you should keep it in the Acrobat plugin. I mentioned about the new web services API that we have. So for years we had a SOAP-based API, and we've added to it a RESTful API where you can use JSON commands. The SOAP API is still there. We'll plan to keep it for the foreseeable future. We know people already built a lot of applications based on it. We get rid of few things over time. We usually just add to it. It's a lot easier to deploy. There's a neat GUI that you can use to interact with it. And it now supports SSL, so that if you want to have your communications secure inside of your network, there's a way to add that to it. There's a browser-based GUI that you can use to manage your templates and check the status of jobs. That's a nice improvement. And plus, we didn't have anything that let you monitor the jobs on the Mac. And now you can use the web-based GUI to monitor jobs on the Mac and add templates on the Mac. And if you've got Producer can now use the API to submit jobs. That way, too, if you've got Server and Producer, they can share resources. That was a little tricky before. Now both would use the same set of servers and the same resources, and you can manage them together rather than separately. And it's a lot easier to set up the web services than the old Producer system. You only have to open one port. There's an easy GUI to do it. I think you'll find it a lot easier. Here's a sample output from our table GUI. This is a lot easier to make than back in the day. Like I said, in 14.0, we added a table GUI feature, and we added to it some new components. We added to it the ability that you can specify a row and its type, so that here I've got some body rows, and I have some rows that are like dates, and some in the row that's a total. Those are formatted differently, and you can specify in the table GUI what the formatting should be for these different row types. So you can get this kind of effect without having to do a lot of code to generate it. And you can just specify which type of row it is, and the details of how it's to be formatted is inside the table GUI. Also, we can do copy fitting inside of a table now. And I can say for a given cell, like, don't break the cell, and change the text, shrink it to fit or expand it to grow, so that it doesn't wrap to another cell, for example. I mentioned this before, that I can specify which row the field names are in for an Excel or a text file. I just specify here. So by default, it's 1, right? So this box used to just say, first row contains field names. Now it says what row the field names are in, and I can just specify it. It's on by default and 1 by default. So if it's the common case where it really is the first row, there's nothing extra you have to do. It's just if it's not the first row, you just change it to whatever row the header is in. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is a file read and write API. So we've had customers ask over the years to generate various data files as part of the FusionPro data processing work that it's doing. And we limited it because we didn't want to, especially for server customers, give access to files that it really shouldn't have access to. If you think about how the server runs, it runs under a different permission level than a user might run under. It might have access to file folders that ordinarily a person might not have access to, and we didn't want to have it be a backdoor or security issue. So we figured out a way to solve that. Once we revamped the web services API, we added some capabilities there to lock down the settings and the permissions on server. So that gave us the opportunity then to open up the system where in JavaScript inside FusionPro, you can open files for reading and open files for writing and do a lot of manipulation. You can also query a folder and say iterate over all the files in a folder. So if I wanted to typeset all the graphics in a folder. I couldn't do that before. I'd have to have some process that would enumerate them and put them in a data file so that I could then read all those graphics and process them. Now, FusionPro in the JavaScript role, you could say, this is the folder that has the graphics in it. I want to iterate over it, and I want to get the name of every graphic, and then I want to put it down inside of a frame. And I think that's all I want to show right now. I'm going to give a quick demo here. And the first thing I want to show is the real easy one. And you can still see my screen, right? Not blurry, John. Does it look okay?
Doug, you're good.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure. Okay, sounds good. Okay, a lot of people have, and we've all seen this, where we've got our nice data file here with the field names and our data, and somebody decides it needs a title at the beginning of it. This is great for humans to read, but awful for computers to read, right? We don't know that we're supposed to skip that and that the headers are over here. So now inside of FusionPro, and I think I've got this already set up here in my data definition, I can say, this is an Excel spreadsheet, and the field names are in row 3. So I was able to specify it there. Also, for those who don't know, I can also specify which sheet in the Excel file I want to use as my primary data file. I can just check this box. Now, there's only one sheet here, so this is all grayed out, and probably should gray out specific sheet too. But that's a pretty simple thing that I think is going to make a lot of lives easier. It's funny how that little thing can cause so much trouble because you have to go back to the customer and say you got to take that out, or somebody needs to remove it. So it's a little thing that can really, really benefit a lot. Another thing to talk about here is imposing previously composed output. So here I've got that job that I just did. I composed it to one up output like so. And a lot of people have data files like this, and they just want FusionPro to impose it. So like I said, there is a rule you can do now where you can specify how I want to do it. You basically turn this into a FusionPro template and apply a rule that says, make every page of this a record, or there's a little checkbox I think to say every 2 pages because it's duplexed, and then feed it in to an imposition. But it's a little tricky to do. So if you have things, and like I said, you don't need to worry about like tray breaks. I mean, you can stack things, but if the tray is short and the data says, okay, break it here, you need to go and use the FusionPro tool for that. But otherwise, all you need to do is load up your imposition, like I have here. There's a new button here called composition. And, this is the composition dialog box you've come to know, where I can point to the PDF file I want to impose, which is this one up output. And here's my output. It's the 4 up imposition. And I can just say, okay, go ahead and compose it. And it's going to do its thing. And it's just imposing it here. And if I take a look at the output, here it is, that same input now imposed. And it's a lot easier. So if you're trying to do a simple imposition job, just make the imposition inside of FP Imposer, and FP Imposer now will live up to its name and actually impose instead of just defining an imposition definition, which is basically what it did before. So FP Imposer now can impose, which is a good thing and a lot easier. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, this timed out, so 1 second here. So I'm going to talk about the Web Services API now. And if you're not a server customer, that might not mean anything to you. But this was built many years ago using a SOAP API, which was an XML-based communication system between 2 computers. Nowadays, a more modern current way to do things is a RESTful API, which uses JSON commands that look like JavaScript. It's basically just a different way that the 2 computers talk to each other. The XML one was kind of verbose. The JSON one is more succinct and easier for a human to read. So we revamped the Web Services API to use this RESTful service as well as the old SOAP one. And we provided a new GUI that you can configure your setup. So here you can say this is the main folder under which components are going to be made. If you're a producer customer, you're kind of used to this notion. This is the working folder under which the jobs are going to be composed and managed. In the web services API, it also is the root where you store templates that you've uploaded into the system. And if you're not familiar with the web services API, basically you've got a GUI that lets you see the templates that have been uploaded. You've got a collection of templates, and you can see a little thumbnail of them. So this is a new feature where I've got a browser that I can use to connect, and I'm connecting to this computer dev scheduler at port 8000, and I'm looking at the dashboard, and I can now see the status of the templates I previously uploaded. So I upload a template into here, I give it a name, and then using the API, I can say, compose the template named Jensen Trifold Mailer with this data and put the output at this location. So you can issue a command to do that. You can also set up hot folders so that if data is dropped into a hot folder, it will compose to the Jensen Trifold Mailer or this statement job. I can also check the status of running jobs here. So another thing I can do is I can set up in Producer to point to the same scheduler. And so I've got a few things that you might be familiar with if you've got a Producer setup. I can add other computers that are targets, so you can set up any number of computers that are going to share the burden. Most people just have one for Producer and also one for server, but you could have quite a number of computers that are set up and they share the composition. So you could submit 100 jobs all at the same time to it, and it will distribute among these many computers. And all you have to do is, once you set up the web services API on these computers, is to add them here and point to them. Now I've only enabled this scheduler at the moment. And if you're used to Producer, you have the notion of queues. So I've got some queues here, and basically I have the name of the queue. And really what people were using it for was to say the output of jobs sent to this queue. I put a copy of the output over here that some other process is going to pick up the output of, a hot folder, and also search path for any graphics or other resources that are part of those jobs. So I can set those up here where I've got different queues, any number of queues that I have added, and I've got a simple GUI here that can manage it. I also have a security tab here, and when I talk about the file read-write API, this is what can restrict it. So by default, if you install the web services API, the server will not let jobs that run under the server. They can't run the read API or the write API or iterate over files. You have to expressly give permission to it. So you have to check these boxes. Now, if I check the box that says allow the write API or the read API, that will let it read and write anywhere. If I want to restrict what folders those can read and write to, then I have down here, I can put a list of folders that can be read and written to. And those are the only folders that FusionPro server will be allowed to access. So that way we can have the read and write API and not allow the system to access files that otherwise it shouldn't have permission to. And when I say server in this context, I also mean Producer. If you've got a Producer customer, by default, it won't let you read and write to other places that it's not normally allowed to unless you've set it up with the new web services API system. And I check these boxes to say I want to give permission to do it. With Creator, we don't have any other special permissions because Creator is running under your account, and whatever files you can access are also the files that FusionPro can access. So running it through FusionPro isn't giving you, as the developer of the template, access to any files that you didn't have access to already as the user of a Creator tool. But when you submit it to server could be running under a different account. I mean, almost certainly is running a different account than you, and it might have access to files that you don't have access to. So that's why it's restricted here in server and not in Creator. And so I set up the working folder. That's the root where all the work is going to happen. I only need to open one port, and there's a little button here to say open the port. That will issue a command to the firewall and say, this user has asked for this port to be opened. It will put up a box saying, okay, some program's asking this port to get opened. Is this okay with you? And you have to just say yes, and then that will open the port. It's a lot easier than what you used to have to do a lot of work. If you do stick with the old legacy Producer system, which we still install, so if you're installing Producer, you can install it either the legacy or the new way, starting with version 14.2. If you install the legacy way, we also provide a batch file that will do the same thing and open up all the ports to make your life a little easier. And if you have security that you want on, so if you want these computers to talk to each other with secure connection, the old technology we had for producer was too old. We couldn't add security to that. So that's another reason that we switched over to use this web service API for producer. You can set up your certificates on the server computer and check a box that says we're going to use HTTPS. And I think that's all you have to do. The clients that access it will recognize it's HTTPS, get the certificates, verify. That all happens behind the scenes invisibly. So I think all you have to do is install the certificates on the server that you're working with. And there's in the user guide how to do that. And then there's the auto cleanup to get rid of old jobs after a certain amount of time if you want. All these settings in server used to be available, but you had to edit a configuration file. Now you got this nice GUI to do it. It's a lot easier. So if I set this up, so I've got this dev scheduler computer at port 8000. I can go over here to my desktop. So that's on a different computer here, right? This is a different computer than that. I can just say I want to use the producer scheduler on dev scheduler at port 8000. Now, if I had the HTTPS box checked, I'd say HTTPS dev scheduler 8000. And that's all I have to do. And I need to just issue the compose command. It does its collecting, and it's going to shoot it over to that other computer. Just a second here. Now, we still have the producer job monitor. So we still have this guy that will show you the status of jobs that are running and have been run. There we go. And did that finish already? I was so fast that the 29th, is that done already? It might be already finished. And yeah, at 8:30, yeah, that computer is, as far as it knows, it's in California. So yeah, that already finished. So sorry. But you would see the status of the job here, update, and then it would go into the finished jobs tab here. And I can also see the status of that job here in the activity monitor here if I refresh this, right? I've got a second one here done at 8:25 a.m. That is finished. And that is showing that it's made with the producer system and it's done. I can check the status of it. And I can pause and cancel jobs here as well as from this producer monitor GUI. So the next thing I want to show are those table improvements. Hopefully that all made sense to you. So I've got a little data file here. So this represents the data for the table that I showed earlier in my slides. And then here is a preview of it that I've generated here. So this is just a text frame that has the table in it that represents this data. So I've got data here, basically 3 columns of data. And if it's a date, I don't have anything in the other 2 columns. This is just 2 commas like that. And then the bottom one is the totals. And that's just always the last one. And all the others are, details about a particular transaction, right? A name, a type, and an amount. Now, if you'll notice, Montague Construction and Phrenology of Slovenia is a nice long name, and that ordinarily would not fit here, and it would wrap, and we'd get a long table cell here. It'd be tall. And if we're trying to restrict it so that all the table cells are the same height, we can apply copy fitting to tables now, and that's new in 14.2, and it's easy to do with this GUI. And see, now that has wrapped. And if you notice, it wrapped by just changing the width of the characters. It didn't make this text shorter as well as narrower. It just made it narrower, which is a kind of the look you want to get in a table like this. So I'm going to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. In order to read that data, I wrote some JavaScript here that uses this file read write API. And if you don't know, inside of the building blocks here for JavaScript, there are some samples that are built in. And there's one, I used this one here for the file open, write, close, or the simple file read actually is the one that I used for this simple file read. So I can just double click on it and that inserts some code here. And there's a lot of neat, helpful example pieces of JavaScript here that you can just click on and insert. And I've got all the file read write, the file iteration. So this one where I can iterate over all of the images inside of a folder, right? And I can check if it's Mac or Windows. I've got a different way of specifying paths. I can just loop through all of the files in a directory and then process them. Here I'm just looping through them like so. So I made use of this simple file read code in order to write this sample where I read in the lines and I process them, and I just say, if I don't have an entry, if I only have, if I have nothing in one of the columns, then that's a date type. Otherwise, it's a body, unless it's the last one, then it's the total. And what that generates is some data that looks like this, where I've got some tagged markup that says, I've got a bunch of rows of data, and some are marked with a date, and some are marked with a total. And then based on that, I can then format it. So that's all I need in order to make that nice looking table that you saw over there. So I've got my table GUI, and if you haven't seen this, I really recommend you take a look. There's in the documentation, there's a nice sample that walks you through the statement tutorial that we have that's built into the product, and it talks you through step by step how to build that. And it's a lot easier than it used to be to make these tables. I can specify what my data is, where my data is coming from here, and here I'm saying I'm coming from the role transaction data. I could have this data coming from, if I've got a multi-line record job, it can come from the multi-line record data. Lots of different ways I can get my data. And then I've got kind of an Excel-like GUI here where to change the widths, I just can change it here with these controls. I can also type numbers in for the columns, and I can change the styling. I can change the border, the gutters, the margins. And so like here for this guy, this date, so what I did here is I said insert a body style of type date and of type total. So if you remember, the data said I'm a row, I'm going to have type date, I'm a row, and I'm of type total. And then if it's nothing, then it's the standard body style here. So if it's a date, I clicked on the entry here saying I want to straddle all these cells, right? So I'm straddling everything. I can say I want it centered. I can say I want it filled with the cyan color. And here, what I'm doing, I'm not straddling this because I want total to show up over here, but I am setting up the borders where I can say I only have the left, top, and bottom of this cell's border, and over here I've got the top and bottom and right of this cell's border, and that gives me this effect here. And this cell border here is, all of them. And this is thicker. This is 1.5 points, and ordinarily my border is, just a half a point. And that's how you get this thicker effect here. And then for copy fitting, I can just here inside of, I can just pick my cells, and I can push this copy fit button, and I say enable copy fit on a single line, so don't let it break. And then I can specify I want to use text width instead of text, just regular text. So text means width and height. So if I change this, I'm going to cancel this to make sure I didn't change anything else. And then I'm just going to change this to say text. In case by clicking around there, I accidentally edited something I didn't want. If you notice here now, Montague Construction and Phrenology of Slovenia, see, it's shorter as well as thinner, right? And we don't want that. That really stands out now as that it got scrunched into there, right? We don't want that. What we want is we just want to change the text width. And then it gets kind of strong, kind of like a movie poster effect, right? We're making the letters thin and tall as opposed to short, right? We don't want them thin and short. We just want them skinny, like that. So hopefully that made sense. Like I said, there's great documentation in the user guide about how to, it's step-by-step guide of how to make tables with that table GUI. People have found it a lot easier to work with than the older system that we had that was admittedly a little tricky. And in the process there, I showed the file read write API. So That covered the things I originally wanted to talk about in the new features of 14.2. So I think I'll switch over then to something else that I'm sure is on a lot of people's minds. So you've seen an email from the company that talked about a change that's happening with Adobe. Now, we've anticipated this change, and we did get a little bit of a heads up about it, that the new version of Acrobat will not support turning off the sandbox mode. So sandbox mode basically means the Acrobat plugin cannot access any files except for the PDF that that is already open, or any file that the user expressly said they could open, like through a file open dialog. You can make an Acrobat plugin that would do a color correction or extract some text out, but not access files all over the network. I just talked about security about that. Now, if the user says, okay, I want to insert a picture into this PDF and browses to an image, then the user has selected a particular image that they are granting access to the plugin, to be able to read from. And so that is permitted. And there's a couple other ways you can mark particular things that can be read and written to. But if you think about FusionPro, it's got its set of fonts that it accesses. You need to be able to scan for images all over the network. You need to be able to write your output file anywhere. The sandbox mode has been too restrictive, so we've been telling customers to turn that off. And Adobe said that starting in August on the Mac, that there will not be a way to turn off the sandbox mode. And in October on Windows, you will not be able to turn it off. Now, there are a couple of ways around that. First of all, you could not use the very latest Acrobat, which might be okay for the short term. We are continuing to see if we can figure out a way to work in the sandbox mode. But in the meantime, we've also been working for several months on a project so that you can have an editor that does not use Acrobat. It's a completely standalone executable. And we came up with the name Verso, which basically means, the other side of the page. Like we're turning the page and moving on to a different editor. Like I said, we're going to try to support the Acrobat plugin as long as we can, as long as it's viable. I really hate to ever turn anything off. I've only turned off like 2 things ever in 20 years. In the meantime, we're going to make the standalone app for Mac and Windows so you can design documents and not require Acrobat. For some customers, using Acrobat is intuitive because they have Acrobat, they're a print shop. Some of our customers are marketing agencies and they don't have Acrobat, and it's actually a real burden to require Acrobat. So it's a new executable, doesn't require Acrobat. It's included in your installation now. So, it's not released yet, but any version that would install a design tool would automatically include the Verso tool at no extra charge. It's basically an alternative editor. It's still installed on your computer. It's an app that runs there. It's just like the Acrobat plugin, but doesn't require Acrobat. And this is what I was talking about, the sandboxing. The FusionPro support team has access to a version that does allow sandboxing. So if you get upgraded to a version that doesn't, contact FusionPro support, and they will instruct you how you can downgrade to a version, basically the version you're running that's available now, that can turn sandboxing off. And so we know this is going to put people in a bind. We're going to have a pre-release of this if we can get it buttoned up enough next month, which is when they're going to be turning off sandboxing on the Mac. And we'll have a full release of it later on in the fall. It's largely working. There's basically some bug fixes we're doing and some other things we're trying to polish up. We used a lot of the same technology as existing in the Acrobat plugin. So it's going to be very familiar to you. And I'm going to give you a quick demo of it. It's going to be very familiar to anybody who's used the Acrobat plugin. I mean, the dialogues are literally the same. It's exactly the same code being invoked by a different tool. We are looking to change the UI of it. Being released from inside of Acrobat also affords us new ways that we can do our user interface. So we're restricted somewhat because we have to all you can do in Acrobat is put up a dialog box. So we're looking to do other things where we have pull-out drawers and dockable components and things like that. So the intent is that we're going to start with a version of Verso that is very familiar to people who have Acrobat to make the transition easy. And then we'll have a alternative user interface mode of it, so that if you want to try something that's a little different and we think might flow better, we'll offer that in the future. But in the interest of haste to try to get something out into the field quickly, because people are going to be a little bit stuck in a bind, we're going to release something that is very much like what you're used to. And so here is the very first look at the Verso product. It's I say product, it's a component. It's a component of your FusionPro installation. There's no separate installer. It's optionally going to be available if you have basically any FusionPro installation has it as an available optional component. Whether it's the designer, the server, producer, anything could install this. And it should look very familiar. So I've got the toolbar. I literally reused the tools from the toolbar. This is one of the samples I pulled up. I can click on to draw text frames. I've got the text frame properties dialog here, just like you're used to. I've got my steps palette that you're used to. I can access resources and add them. This is exactly the same resource management dialog that you've used. It's exactly the same text frame properties dialog you've used. I've got all the rules. All the rules that have been available to FusionPro are available here. I can edit an existing rule. I've got the switch wizard here. I've got the ability to do JavaScript, any of the drag and drop editor. All of those rules are available in the system now. My barcodes, everything. This is exactly the same dialog that you're used to. We just have a different tool that's opening it up. This is showing the PDF background. Since we're not in Acrobat, we don't require that you have a PDF background. So you can say, I want a new document, have no background at all, and just draw text frames on top of just nothing. Now, we will have the ability to export this to the existing format where you've got a PDF file and our resources are embedded inside of there. We also have a new file format. If I have this one and I say file save, it's having a file format called FPVDP, FusionPro VDP output format, which is a custom format of ours because, like I said, we don't require that you have a PDF file. We also don't require that all the backgrounds of every page are from the same PDF file if you do have a PDF file. So I have my manage page dialog. So this is one that is a little different. This manage page dialog now has a new option here called background. So I can change the front page of this and say, I want to use the Presidio postcard front page background instead. And now I have that as the background instead of the other. That's also how, if you import a PDF into Verso and then you change the PDF file, you can do this to bring in your background again and refetch it. I can do preview. I can do composition. I've got the same output formats that I had available to me. I've got my preview dialog. It's much the same. It's just a different tool here. At the moment, I can only view one page of the background at a time. I think this is the way we're going to ship it for our pre-release, to help people out who might be in a bind. The intention is to be able to show multiple pages at a time and scroll through them, just like with Acrobat. But pretty much this has almost all the functionality. The only things that are kind of missing here, we don't have text on a frame on here yet. A couple of other options. I don't have undo redo hooked up here yet. There will be a page manipulation dialog right here. But those are actively being worked on right now. We should have a pre-release in about a month, and people can take a look at it. And it will be officially released probably going to have a version 15 that has Verso in it in the fall and have a little bit of a splash. I'm a little disappointed that Acrobat kind of forced our hand to release this a little early. I want to kind of make a big splash and have the new editor out in version 15 in the fall. But this way you can get a pre-release of it, try it out, tell us where we've made any mistakes, and make it better. And that's the end. Go ahead. Yes, please.
So we have a couple questions.
Yeah. Go.
Will there be an InDesign plugin?
Oh, yeah, good. Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Yes, so the InDesign plugin is not affected by this. And the only change that we're applying to that is that when you export from the InDesign plugin, it will ask you export to Acrobat or export to Verso. And you'll be able to export to either one. And there doesn't seem to be any restrictions on the InDesign plugin. So that we expect to continue as is. And really, that's the only addition. So you will be able to export from InDesign into this new tool, or export from InDesign into Acrobat like you used to. We're going to add a little option of which one to send it to.
Okay, and then can you edit text that is part of the PDF background?
Right, not at the moment. Right, so that is something so basically you have to open that in Acrobat, edit it, and refetch it back into here. We do have a feature inside the Acrobat plugin where I can highlight some text, right? I can hold down the control key and draw a text box and then say, suck the text out of here. And I can do two things with that. I can say, pull that text into the text editor so I can edit it there and remove it from the background PDF. In the interest of getting this pre-release out in August, we've skipped that feature for now. But I expect we will add that so like if I'm just trying to remove this, come see the future of San Diego living. If I just want to get that out of there, I should be able to highlight that in an upcoming release, highlight that and say remove that text under this frame, and that will go away. If I'm trying to change that text to say Las Vegas instead of San Diego, you'll have to go back to Acrobat to edit that and bring it back in. We've got to be careful we don't give you everything Acrobat could do. That starts to violate the license agreement we have to use the Adobe PDF library. So I can't give you a tool that does everything Acrobat did. Then I'm basically competing with Adobe with its own technology, and they're going to tell me I can't do that. I don't think it's going to be a problem to just display a background PDF here and a little simple manipulation. I think anything beyond that, like here, I can just remove a block of text. Okay, that's not that big a deal. But if I start letting it touch up individual letters and things like that, that goes against the spirit of the agreement that we've made with Adobe, and I don't want to do that.
Two more questions.
Actually,
the same question basically. Will you need to import an existing PDF template, or can you open native in Verso? And can you import an existing PDF template to Verso?
Right. So at the moment, I don't have a way to import. I can open a PDF that's clean and draw my frames on top of it. Before we have our pre-release out, we definitely have a import an existing FusionPro template in a PDF, and then you get all the pages and all the frames like so, and then export back out to it. But you can also, even now, just say, I want to say a new document, and I've just got nothing. And I can just draw. I don't need a PDF at all, and I can just draw frames on it. And I don't have a PDF here. There is none. And that's okay. Because some people do that. They don't have any background at all. They just draw a bunch of frames. And sometimes people draw, a giant background frame here and pull an image in as the background, right? And you can see the stuff here. I've got my layers. I've got all my palettes. I've got, even this overview palette here with, that has all my frames on it. My groups palette, which is heavily underused. I do recommend people take a look at that groups palette. You can do a lot of fun things with that. But like even here, like I can change the layer here of things, with this GUI. Like so layer, I put it to the front. Now I put it to the back. Did that answer the question? I'm not sure I fully understood it, but basically I can open a PDF file and draw on it. I can say file new and draw there on top of nothing. And before we pre-release it, you'll be able to say import an existing FusionPro template. It will draw all its frames, bring in the rules, bring in its resources. It'll be just as if you opened it in the Acrobat plugin. Did I answer the question?
Well, I'll let the folks
Okay, sure.
suggest more questions in the chat. Can you copy and paste from Acrobat to Verso?
Aha. We're working on that still, so not at the moment. I mean, we do have the copy and paste working inside of Verso that you can copy here and multi-select and copy and paste to other pages and other documents. I don't think at the moment you can copy and paste a frame from Acrobat to Verso. It's definitely something I'd like. We're kind of under the gun to try to get something out, so that we don't have people who are stuck, in this time period where the Acrobat plugin doesn't work. That might be something we put in a future release of Verso, but I certainly see the need for it. It's definitely valuable.
Is there a way to set bleed, trim, page size parameters?
Right. So I don't have the page GUI yet, so it'll be a pull-out drawer over here on the left, just like an Acrobat, and certainly to resize it and set those different boxes on the pages. That'll definitely be a requirement. Yeah.
Craig says, this is amazing. Thank you for working to launch quickly ahead of Adobe's changes to the security settings. Thank you, Craig. Let's see here. Will Verso pick up the colors from the InDesign doc or PDF?
So it'll work just like the Acrobat plugin. So when you export from InDesign, the color dictionary from InDesign comes with it. And likewise, the color dictionary. So when you say from a PDF, I presume you mean a FusionPro template made in the Acrobat plugin saved to a PDF. If you mean that, then yes, that the colors will be brought in. The color dictionary will be brought in. I think that's here now. This color dictionary will be brought in from when we import the definition from Acrobat from a PDF file, or when it gets exported from InDesign. Yeah, the color dictionary comes with it.
Okay, so we can import FusionPro doc into Verso with fonts, rules, colors. The question.
Right. Now, and the fonts basically are. It's the same font system as in Acrobat. Now, so if you've got fonts specified here in your text file here, right? If I've got fonts that are specified in this text box, then this text box, all its content, the font that's used, the color that's used, all this formatting, the tab stops, everything will come in and be used. And the font system works just like with Acrobat. I mean, I've got my font usage dialog here that shows me the fonts that are used in the document. I can do a replacement. I can show the usage of it. But it's whatever fonts were available on the Acrobat plugin are also available in the Verso tool.
And I assume that it's the same where if you need to install a new font, you shut down Verso, install your font, open in Verso, and it'll be there.
Exactly. Yes. Right. And likewise, if a font is removed and I start Verso and I open a template, it'll say, okay, this font isn't here. What do you want to do? And you can replace it, or you could just close it without saving, install the font again, and open it up, and it'll just heal itself.
All right. Well, that's the last of the chat questions. Let me just check the Q&A section. There was nothing there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm sorry there are no questions about the first half, but that's cool. I understand why this is more urgent. I get that. But I do hope people look at that, especially the table GUI. I'm really happy with the way that turned out. And anybody who's doing any tables is a lot easier than what it used to be. And I'm eager to hear feedback. Another big change in version 14 was about charts, which was not heavily used, and I recognized that the chart system in FusionPro was weak, and we weren't sure if it wasn't heavily used because it was not so great, and people would like to use it because but they didn't because it was pretty dated, or whether there's just not a lot of need for charts in FusionPro documents. So it's kind of interesting. I bring that up because to get to here, we had to get rid of some old technology that wouldn't move over to Verso. And one of them was the imposer system, how that worked, and one of them was the charting system, and that had to be revamped before we could go to Verso. So it's been a long time coming, actually, to get here. And we weren't sure whether we should just dump the whole charting system because it wasn't actively used. It had to get revamped in order to move. And so we did a little bit of a leap of faith that if you build it, they will come kind of thing of, well, let's make it better so that old chart jobs still work, improve it so it can do more capabilities. It's easier to define the data for it. And so that had to happen in order for us to move over to Verso then. So that now I can draw a chart here and push the button and get all the properties. And now I've got a bunch of things that I didn't before. Like I've got all these guys, this radar chart and these donut charts in particular. And it's a lot easier to do the data too. I can just specify the data here in a grid if I want. And this grid can contain variables. So if I just have 9 variables that make the chart up, I can just insert them here and I'm done. I don't have to make any other rules. So it's a lot easier. So I bring that up because that was necessary in order to get us here. We had to replace that technology. So I hope you have a chance to take a look at it and the table GUI because it's pretty neat. But those are both available in the new tool and in the Acrobat plugin.
And Doug, remind us of when Verso is planned to launch.
Yeah, right. Well, we're unfortunately, Adobe it's a little faster than we intended. And so basically, it's as soon as we have something stable, we're going to make it available in a pre-release. is the short answer. We're dancing as fast as we can. And all I have to say is, later this fall we'll have the full version out, and we'll call it version 15 of FusionPro, and do a little bit of fanfare about it. So I'm hoping for October. We'll see. But I do want to have a pre-release in August because I know people are going to be under the gun. And when I say a pre-release, I want it to be like good and stable. You can actually use it, not it's you kind of get an idea about it. But you can do a lot with the version I just showed you. There's a lot here. The big thing missing is the page management dialog and the import of the existing templates and export of the existing templates. It's a non-starter without those. But all the stuff has to work right. Undo has to work right. Copy and paste has to work right, and it's got to paste all the components, not just some of them. So lots of details to get right. But we made really good progress. I'm really pleased with the level that we're at. We're close, and we appreciate the loyalty of our customers, and we know, your business is riding on this, and we take it very seriously, and we want it to be right. And we also know you're going to be stuck if your Acrobat updates and you can't use FusionPro. So we do have a way that you can downgrade, pretty painlessly. It'll take a few minutes to downgrade. We have all the links available, so that temporarily you can go to an older version of Acrobat where FusionPro will still run while we get this all buttoned up.
Excellent. And Doug, I think that might be a great time. We're coming up here with about 1 minute left. So I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to sit in on our session today. I think Doug gave a great overview of some of the changes that are and the enhancements that are coming in version 4.2. So for those of you that are already using the solution, it continues to grow along with your needs. Obviously, we love to continue to get your input about changes we can make to the system. I did see some comments in there about beta testing as well, and I always love to see that enthusiasm. But thank you again to everyone who joined us today. Doug, thank you again, as always, for a wonderful presentation. And John, thank you for helping to moderate and lending some of your expertise during the event as well.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And one last thing, I did want to let everybody, as a quick reminder, if you weren't on the call when we first started, there will be a recording available that will be coming out to you. So just sit tight. We're going to make a clean version of that for you that you can take a look at for your own reference purposes. And we also encourage you to share it with your team as well. Without further, sorry, John, do you want to add a comment there?
Quick comment. Yes, Doug, we've had a couple of folks volunteer to be beta testers. So that's
Awesome.
always good news. And then for anybody still on the call, if your question wasn't answered, please shoot me an email and we'll be sure to answer your questions. All right.
Excellent. And John, could you do us a favor and go ahead and throw your email address into the chat?
Yeah, you bet.
Excellent. Well, we'll let everybody go ahead and get back to their day. I hope everybody has a great second half of the week, and we'll keep you posted on the recording and any new announcements and events that we have. Thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much. See ya.
Take care, everyone.